Okay, so this is a playthrough of the Russian turn, the Turkish Ottoman turn. They've just been dealt the Balkan Problems event by the Russians, which means they have to remove, and that could be Montenegro revolting, Serbia entering the war, Bosnia revolting, or Greece declaring war. And I think Greece is the worst. It means they have to withdraw 5 combat factors permanently from the game. I think that's going to be from here. But they have a problem in that they also need 10 combat factors in the holding area here, or else Russia might get another insurrection political will chit, and that will give them -1d6 political will. They are on political will of 10 at the moment. If they reach 0, they're going to lose. They started with, I think, 15, and they've been going up and down a little bit, but mainly down. They could go up from winning combats, but there's not going to be many that they're going to be able to win. So I think they're just going to be going down essentially, and they're going to be trying to go down as slowly as possible, hoping to make it to the end of the scenario. I'm just playing the opening move scenario. So we start with the mobilisation phase. Because of where they are, they're only going to roll once for mobilisation. If they had high national will, they could roll twice, which is where Russia is. So the Turks roll a 5. I didn't stress if they were doing the Mustafas irregular. I'm going to say not. They're going for a professional mobilisation, that they get a 5, which is a 1. Which means they can bring on a 2 reserve unit. They could bring it on in the holding box, which they're going to do, and then that's mobilisation. Now movement, I'll just take these 5 off then, so they're permanently going out of the game to satisfy the Balkan Problems event. Now we've got 3 staff chits, which is 3 definite movements. Essentially what the problem we've got here is that the Russians are starting to move around here. They will gain national will for Belgrade, Sofia, Philippopolis, Adrianople and Constantinople. So all of these. And also here is a room. We could gain from taking Odessa, Georgobiketsk, and these, but it's not likely that we're going to. The Turks have a naval unit there in headquarters, but that's a naval headquarters. They don't have any land units. They could potentially land some there and try and take that back, which could cause problems there. But the main theatre really is here. And this is a bit of a distraction, to be honest, in terms of effort. I think if our die rolls mean there's movement here, that's all well and good, but we shouldn't probably spend any operations chits on that part of the war. So having said that, I think I'm going to deal with the movement in Asia first. So we want to move this unit up. So it's just going to be normal movement. I think I haven't tried a forced march yet. I'll try it. I'll try a forced march. So that's a 3. No, that means C, road congestion. If the moving force contains 10 or less combat factors, then treat this as a forced march. Oh. Okay, so it does count as being forced march, so it gets 50% extra movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It didn't need more. 6. No, because I was going to bring it out here. 6. But they become demoralised. 6. No, I want them to stay there, so that was pointless. So Faizi gets those, but they are now demoralised units. Demoralised markers. That's one thing you don't get enough demoralised and strength point markers in this game. So never mind, I'll just mark it with that. It's because the Russians aren't rallying their troops quickly enough, using up all the demoralised markers. They got 1, 2, 3, 4 off board. Okay, now, so that was really an example of a silly thing to do, but never mind. We've taken Tabriz. Let's try and bring the Mukhtar headquarters back 3, so that's going to be impetuous, and they are cavalry, so they're going to move towards the nearest enemy unit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it could be that or that. So it's that one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because the cavalry, that cavalry can only move at 8. Some regular cavalries can move at 10. So Mukhtar's, I was going to recall him to Bayezid here, but he's got his own ideas and is going for glory, trying to capture Gumri from the Russians, which isn't, on face of it, might not be a bad move. Thank you, Mukhtar, because then the Russians might move some folks back, because they don't know he's only got one. Well, they can probably remember he's only got one cavalry unit with him at the moment, because it was revealed in the combat against Persia back there. And then I think I want to withdraw this unit. He's going to get surrounded easily, otherwise. So just a normal march. We roll a 2, which is back. So he's going to go back to the fortification and stay there. I wanted him to come here, because I didn't want him to be destroyed with the rest of Faizi's army there. But anyway, okay, so he's with Faizi in the fort in Erzurum. Okay, now I'd like to move those out, but then it's just going to be quickly retaken, I fear. Because this naval unit could help with defending here. Not that the Russians need it, they'll probably bypass that, but then I could perhaps use that to interdict their supply lines. So I think I'm going to leave him there for now. I really need more troops, because I would like him to come back and land some troops, but I've got to worry about that. The insurrections and bringing troops here first. That's tough. I might just have to hope that never happens. I could bring in some of those on with naval movement. Yeah, let me try that, because I got to risk my insurrection. So rolling for naval movement with this one, I get a 1, which is N, so nothing, and I can try for 5 combat factors worth out of the holding area per turn. So I'll try with those, and I get 2, which is also nothing. So that's it. No, something wrong with the Turkish Navy. Some problem there. It's not happening. Okay, so that's the Asian theatre. Now this theatre, I'm a bit worried because they're moving out here. They might be trying to come around here, or to trying to take Belgrade. Either way, this is quite strong, and that's going to delay them. So I think I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm going to bring in these Bosnian units. Montenegrins there on my side, but I think they can't move out of Montenegro unless they... No, I think I can move them, yes. Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to anyway. They're just an irregular. So that one doesn't move. Okay. Now the Sultan's got not much in reserve. He's got 2 cavalry units. Maybe I do need to bring one out. So, no movement. I'll try the other elite one. And the same. Okay. Now, Tarik's actually got nothing to tell the Russians. This is our irregular. He's holding the pass there. He's holding the pass there. He's entrenched. He's infantry, so he can entrench. No movement, but you don't have to roll for entrenchment. Troops will happily dig in. They're not so happy about moving around. Happy about moving back into fortifications. And AK Abdul Kamin has all of these units. Now that he's going to move out. It doesn't really help with him sitting there. In fact, he's stranded now. He's going to have to move out by sea, so that's going to have to be a naval movement. I'm going to use staff for that. I don't want to risk him staying. So so he can bring a division and a brigade of cavalry with him. He's going to leave those irregulars behind. And so I can move from a friendly port to a friendly port. So that's going to be Zizboli there. Okay. And I think that is it for movement for the Turks. You can see there's more movement I could have done, but it didn't happen. Okay, fighting. I can't show you fighting because I don't think we want to do any fighting. Sorry, I didn't roll for this. I want him to move. 4. So yes, that is a movement. Question is, where is he going to move? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, he's moving down here, heading towards fortified town there. Okay, so there's actually no fighting on the Turkish side. Now we go to rally. So the Turks had one fellow demoralised there, so I roll on the rally table, and a 1 means no one rallies. The unit was reserve, so I would have needed a 5 or a 6. If my national will was higher, it would have been a 4, 5 or 6, so no rally occurring there. Then we go to the logistics phase. Now, is everyone within 3 hexes of a friendly fortification or supply unit? The Turks have not mobilized supply units, so that one's out. Okay, so I'm going to have to roll for this one. 4, yes, so he forages successfully. That would have been 3 hexes, but not through the mountains because you can't trace it through regions you can't roll. And 6 is supplied perfectly, so fine. Found some stores somewhere. So that's the end of the logistics phase. Then we go to the politics phase. Because we're in average politics, we get a political marker on a 1 or a 2. Yes, and they rolled it. And they get morale. I haven't done this one. So maybe retained indefinitely. Each time it is played, it is returned to the cup. I can select one of these 4 options, and this is often what happens with the political chits, is they have quite a few options in them. It's not just one thing. So it makes even more possible effects than the number of chits would otherwise belie. All friendly demoralised units in any map hex immediately rally. Or all demoralised enemy units in a hex surrender if they are adjacent to, etc. Raise national will by 2 or lower enemy national will by 1. Now I'm tempted to I'm not adjacent to any of these demoralised units there, which is frustrating. And here, Nep and Todd Todleben had demoralised units. No, just Todleben. That was the interesting thing. These fellows both fought, and although they won their battles, they do get demoralised units. So they're kind of fragile. If the Turks had attacked back, were in a position to do so effectively, could have caused a lot of damage. But no, that's okay. It's just Todleben. So fortunately, we can't do that. I think we're going to use it. All demoralising insects for invasion. As many combat factors. So you need the same number of combat factors as all the enemy units. So you won't surrender a larger enemy force to a smaller. You just that makes sense. Okay, I'm just going to use it to raise our national will by 2. I think that goes back in the cut. I think that makes sense for the Turks. So that's the end of the Turkish turn. Let's just whiz through the Russian turn, and I'll do that off camera, and then come back to some combat just so you can see that. I just realised one thing I didn't show was the operations markers, which I could have shown because this Terek here has 2 operations points. He could use 1 for a sedition, and I think, hang on, he'd spent 1 and he'd spent 2, I believe. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, I could put a sedition marker. I could put a irregular unit here, and that's out of range of this. I just brought that on in the Turkish in the Russian turn, so that's out of range of him. Otherwise, he could use the secret police to cancel that sedition, which he's not able to. Now, so that would have gone on earlier, I believe. I don't think I could do it after the logistics phase. He's all right. Okay, so back to the Russians. Okay, so in this combat situation here, we have Loris Melikov um, fighting against Faizi, and there's another headquarters here, Grand Duke Mikhail, but they have to fight separately. They cannot combine. That never happens in this series. So these are the units that we have, or I should put down there, the fortress. So now Loris Melikov has siege guns, so he could go for a bombardment, which is going to be the sensible thing to do. He's got a demoralised unit here. His enemy has a demoralised unit here as well. Now these 0 strength units won't add to the combat factors in the battle, but they could be used to soak up losses. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 versus 6. And if we attack with demoralised units, we're going to inflict less losses than any that we potentially could do. And this force is not strong, it's just a couple of cavalry units. That is a strong force. I think I was going to attempt a coup de main. That would be a battle with bombardment, but we're just going to go for the bombardment. So we the defender doesn't get a chit if you're solely bombarding, and we get this. It's a B2, so if that was a second class fortification, that would be destroyed. It's not. It's a first class fortification. I wonder how many B1 chits there are. So that is no effect, and that is the end of that combat. If, on the other hand, we had attempted that coup de main and just gone for a battle, then we might, for instance, have drawn that. That would mean that 10% of these forces would be subtracted from their strength, but because we got a demoralised unit fighting, it would be 20% not 20% or 10%, but 20%, as it were, less, which would reduce that to nothing. Where was that B2 chip that I drew? Say we had drawn that one instead, the bombardment would have been ineffective, but then the defend. If we went for battle, the defender would have gone first, unless Loris Melikov had played a staff chip. Now he doesn't have any left, and the Turk does, so they would have been able to counter that anyway. So say that was the defender's chip, they would have caused 10% losses. We won't count the demoralised, so that would be 10% of 5 of 10, that would be 1. So one of these would go down by 1 point, and then we would say, if we didn't bring them into the battle, we would say 50% of 3, so I think that's going to be 1 or 2 points of them would be lost. And any reservists would be demoralised, so these reservists would be demoralised again, and they would actually surrender to us, but the rest would keep going. But that isn't what happened. Okay, so that was no effect. I'm just going to leave those there for now and move on to another battle. Okay, this should be a fairly straightforward battle. So it's Nepokotskitsky, against the irregulars in Yana. Now the irregulars get to pull first, and they are in a fortified terrain in a fortress city. So the B2 doesn't count because that's just in bombardment. So 50% losses. Now, with a 1 strength chip, 50% is a 1 strength. So their Nep's going to lose 1 from his 4 strength unit, which goes down to 3. And any reserve or irregulars will be demoralised. Now his unit is a reserve. So it is demoralised as well. Okay. So that was quite effective. And now that chip goes back in the cup. We pull 1 for the attacker. And 80% losses. So 80% of 3 combat factors counts as 3. But because they're in a fortress city, that's minus 20%, so that will be 60% of 3 counts as 1. No, counts as 2 anyway. So even defending in a fortress city doesn't help that irregular unit, and that is eliminated. And if it was professional, only professionals left, they would be demoralised, and any cavalry and Nepokotskisky's army would be demoralised, i.e. blown. So that is the end of that combat, and now he may advance after combat, which he will. He could leave some folks behind, but he doesn't have them too. Now we have this fellow, Todd Leben, against these engineers. Now there's 0 strength, entrenched, so any losses and they will have to move out. Okay, so in fact that 0 strength unit is just automatically lost, and the fortification with it, which is a bit of a disaster, but it did slow Todd Leben down. Okay, so Grand Duke Nicholas is fighting here in the rough terrain, so he's going to get minus 20%, but that should be okay. So the enemy draws 100% chit. You can't see that, can you? Sorry, I can't zoom in anymore. I could hold up my hand closer, but I don't think it really matters. Okay, so Grand Duke's going to take 1 loss. Okay. And then he's got 4 combat factors. Oh, and irregulars. No, he doesn't have irregulars. And he's got 4 combat factors against those irregulars, which are 0. So actually those, that did not happen. That's just automatically lost 2. Okay, so he can move on into there, which he will, leaving this fellow behind. Now Scob against him. Scob is Skobilev. 40% of 1 is 0, and professionals are demoralised. So in fact, all of Scob's units are demoralised. They go back into the attack, and they get a 50 and an R, and 50% of 4, 5, 6, 7. Anyway, he's gone. You can get surrenders, you can get retreats, but when the forces you're against are so small, they generally just get gobbled up. And then finally this fellow here, he's going to get 1 loss. Oh dear. That's a disaster. That wasn't well done. So he's he only had 1 strength point unit with him, so he should have been guarding, not attacking. So he's lost. And then I think the 0 strength headquarters unit is lost too. Sorry, let's come back up here. This one against here. Yeah, so any remaining 0 strength units are eliminated. So that headquarters has just come on by mobilisation. Immediately destroyed. And that is the end of the combat round. And that I will call the end of this look at the Russo-Turkish